Welcome to Spoonable Standpoint, the podcast where our hosts Leo and Charlene dig into food culture.
And we're actually in person for this episode and not doing this through a voice call, so hopefully this discussion feels a lot more organic and natural compared to our other ones.
Yeah, most of the time when we record our discussions, we hop onto a Discord call and we go back and forth talking. And it doesn't feel very organic because it's just like blocks of one person talking. Originally we were going to do it where like each person would have like reactions to the other person talking.
Yeah.
But that took so much time.
Yeah, and when editing out the reactions, just hearing them isolated would sound so weird. So we just decided to take them out as a whole, at the expense of our podcast sounding pretty
terrible.
Yeah.
It's also like weird because you just would talk, be like, ha 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 ha. They never synced up. They were always a little iffy. But now we are in person. We don't have that problem of having to edit someone's weird, awkward laugh over someone else's.
Exactly.
We can do this. So this is the first episode of our second season. We took quite a bit of a break. Charlene, why don't you tell them why we took a break?
Well, we originally took the break because, number one, we were out of episode ideas. And number two, we were expected to have midterms around December to January, but that never happened. So we're going to pick back up in season 2, starting strong with a season 1 recap.
Kind of talk about our thought process, how we even started this podcast. We never talked about that.
Yeah.
And when we did talk about it, it was kind of a lie, the reason why we started it. So tune in for that.
Yeah, exactly.
So we said, or Charlene said, that one of the reasons why we stopped doing the podcast for a little bit was because we ran out of ideas. We started off really strong. Our first episode, we knew we wanted to do school lunch.
Right.
Charlene and I are kind of connoisseurs.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that.
School lunch. I think it's more than safe to say that. We met freshman year, and we had a bunch of classes together, but we kind of met at lunch. And that's how we started to bond. We started to talk about how bad the school lunch was, or how good it was. And it was just something fun to do with somebody. And we kind of became little food critics.
Right. We even left reviews in, like, the official school food app. I think we were the only ones who ever did that. I mean, the app's still up. But we actually left reviews every time. We had our own scale about how good the food was and comparing it to regular food, and also talking about our school lunch experiences as a whole. But the whole idea to start a podcast really came from when we were basically required to enter contests in our world history class. And Leo stumbled upon a New York Times podcast competition where we're supposed to submit basically a 5-minute clip for, and make a podcast about it. So we thought, what better thing to make a podcast about than food, and more specifically, school lunch.
And we did it. It was lots of fun. We really enjoyed doing it. About halfway through doing it, we were like, I think we should make this like a regular thing. But we have to backtrack because there's a big gap between when I first said we should do it and when we actually did it. So I saw it in, January of 2020?
Yeah.
So we were freshmen, and we knew we wanted to do school lunch. I even bought a mic, like a $20 mic. I still use a $20 mic. It's not very... It sounds great, but... bought a $20 mic. So excited to start, and we couldn't think of a name. We spent weeks and weeks and weeks trying to think of a name. And then at one point, the semester was up, and I was like, I don't think we have time to do this. I just entered in some quick contest. And I kind of forgot about it for a while, and I think you did too. But then at one point, I had her the next year. Mm-hmm. You didn't have her, but I did.
Yeah.
And we had to do the contest again. And this was still during quarantine. And I said, hey, Charlene, remember that idea that we wanted to do? We couldn't think of a name. Let's do that. I think it could be really fun. I have to do a podcast or a contest anyway. Let's do something that we both kind of want to do, and we wanted to do I was pretty scared to ask because I wasn't sure if you were gonna say yes. I was kind of expecting you to be like, "Oh, I don't have the time," or something. Like I was genuinely concerned, but I'm really glad that you said yes because here we are now.
Yeah. An entire season later.
An entire season later, yeah, almost a year. Coming up in a
Yep.
year in what is this? It's February now.
Right.
We started in May.
Yeah,
Oh,
in May.
Yeah,
Yeah,
May. Never
mid-May.
mind. We're nowhere near a year.
I know you're nowhere near a year since we started, but between that gap between when you first found it and
Frankly,
when
we're over 2 years at this point.
yeah,
so.
when you first found it, when we first started coming up with all our ideas in a doc, our terrible podcast names, and the day we finally released it, which was I think May 16th, that was well over a year. So yeah that was it's really interesting to think about. But we started with the idea, but then didn't start working on it till like the beginning of May. So we were starting from an idea, no podcast name, no design, no nothing. We started from that to a complete podcast concept, name, logo, everything. First episode and trailer in 10 days.
Yeah,
that
it was
was
crazy.
powerful. That was impressive. So we were just like, wow, we really love this momentum. We needed something to do over this quarantine. So we were like, what better thing to talk about than food, and what better thing to do than a podcast?
Plus, it looks great on a college application.
But that's not why we did it.
No, that's not why we did it. Really, originally, it was contest. Then we said, you know what? This is fun. Let's keep doing it. And we had fun. I was actually in Michigan when we first started working on it. So I had to sneak away from my family every so often to work on it.
Good excuse.
Yeah, I'm working on a podcast, Mom.
Exactly.
But it was fun. We wanted to do it all about school lunch. Mm-hmm. We did one episode and realized, we talked about all of it. But we did one episode and we said, well, we're talking about school lunch. Let's talk about food in general. And we had a few ideas. Actually, no. We had one idea.
One idea.
And it was pasta. We wanted to talk about pasta.
Pasta shapes.
Specifically, yeah, pasta shapes specifically. And I think like every episode we were just kind of like, hey, we need a new idea.
Yeah.
What about cereal? Okay.
Yeah, literally. We just went with whatever we found.
And frankly, this is an announcement. If you have an idea, please let us know. On season 2 trailer, which is out, when you listen to it, we put a Q&A. What do you want us to talk about in season 2? We already have someone who did it, so if you did it, awesome. In a few weeks, coming out soon. Stay tuned for that. Should be lots of fun. But if you have an idea, put it in. If it's good, we might use it. If it's something we haven't done before, it's a pretty good chance we'll use it. We have a few ideas, some pretty good ideas. Not too many.
For
Please.
an entire season.
Yeah, for an entire season, we maybe have at this point, maybe half the season done.
Yeah.
So if you want to hear something, let us know.
Yeah, and we also have an episode suggestion Google form on our website. So if that's easier for you, because I'm pretty sure the Q&A you can only see through Spotify. So if you don't listen through Spotify, you could definitely check out that link in our bio in our website.
Yep.
So another thing we really liked is that we don't just produce all the episodes and then release them, when we have to. No, we start and then release them as we work on them. So as soon as we, finish our last episode, we are working into the next one and then publishing them as we go. So because of that, it was really interesting to see how the podcast grew over time.
And it's also one of the reasons why we wanted to stop, because we were at a point where, over the summer, over quarantine, we had so much time.
Right.
We finished school at 3 and then we could just work on it. And we didn't have to commute or anything, and it was awesome. Mm-hmm. Over the summer, it was the same. We were traveling, but I always brought my mic with me. I went to see family in Europe. I brought my mic with me. We recorded. Actually, I think we recorded the instant ramen one when I was in Italy seeing family.
Yeah.
And that was it was still fun to do. We were still able to do it. It was awesome. But then school came around, and we knew it would be a lot of work to keep it up. But at one point, we were like, I don't think we can do this anymore. This is a lot of work. Our midterms are coming up. It's not going to be fun. So we just stopped doing it. But we knew we wanted to come back for season 2. And here we are. Season 2. It's going to be a lot of work, but I think we can do it.
Yeah, definitely. And starting out, we were very inexperienced. None of us really had any podcasting experience. I know Leo worked a lot in some media, but we, in terms of like editing, graphic design for social media, just talking in general, writing the discussions and everything, we were completely inexperienced. But our beginning episodes were very unorganized. They were something. They were definitely something. Very unorganized.
Bad mic quality. Very unorganized. The same thing over... I mean, all our episodes in the first season were kind of the same thing over and over again. If you listen to every single one, we're talking about something and we say, you know why it's so popular?
Convenience.
We made a joke one time that we should change our podcast name to something with convenience in it, because that's all we talk about.
Yeah, it's the reason behind every food phenomenon we talk about.
But it's kind of like that's reflective of American culture, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not our fault everything's convenient. That's just how it happens to be.
Exactly. But then I think our episodes started getting a lot better right around like the mall food episode era, when we started paying a lot more attention to like scripting the discussion, finding exact numbers, and making it a lot more organized, because before we would have, you know, a completely scripted history section, thanks to Leo.
Thanks to me.
Yep. And but then for the discussion, we just have like very, very rough points. We literally have talk about history, Leo says this, but it would be like extremely general. Like Leo talks about, like for example, instant ramen, we were like talk about cup ramen, and then like I respond, and then really broad points, and then the end would be like future. That's it. That's it. But then for like the mall food episode, and especially like the mac and cheese episode, we started really scripting the discussions and making the points flow a lot better, and then doing a lot more research for not only the history but for the discussions too, which I feel like elevated them to another level, which we really plan to bring on in season 2. And especially this much more conversational vibe, instead of just being like, you know, flat chunks of just one person speaking at a time for 2 minutes. So yeah, that's another evolution we plan to keep up in the next season.
And also, these discussions are way easier to do.
Exactly.
Because I do most of the editing for most of the stuff, like overlaying music, but Charlene does 100% editing of the discussion.
Right.
And like...
It takes several hours of just cutting out long pauses, buts, whatever.
We have like 25-minute discussions over calls. Discussion sections like 16 minutes usually in an episode. So we have a lot of stuttering. Being in person is way better, because I don't think I'm stuttering as much, or I'm umming as much. Yeah,
and even if you are, it doesn't really matter, because that's the whole vibe we're going for, the conversational vibe. Like, even as unscripted the discussion was, it still felt pretty, like, fake, almost.
Yeah. Well, speaking of fake discussions, when we did the New York Times, it was a New York Times podcasting competition. What we had to do was make something under 5 minutes, I think over like 3 minutes or something.
All right.
This is our first time doing it. We knew what we wanted to do. We weren't sure how to do it. So our entire discussion was scripted. And it felt so fake. So how about we listen to that? Now, it's not on our Spotify.
Thank God.
Maybe we shouldn't tell you how to get it. Maybe you can find it yourself. But it was about school lunch. It was pretty much like a shortened version of the actual one. Except 20 times worse.
Yeah, and completely scripted. We tried as hard as we could to make it sound like we were actually talking to each other.
I remember, we probably spent like an hour trying to get like the right tone of voice down and stuff. It was sad.
Yeah, okay, so we're just going to show you so you can hear it for yourself.
Yeah, let's do this.
Picture your typical school day.
That's also something. Something we didn't do because it took so long to do it in the actual podcast was we overlaid a bunch of sounds.
Yeah.
We did that for this because this was on the rubric. But
on the rubric.
It wasn't the rubric. That we had to make it sound interesting. So if you hear that and you're like, that doesn't sound very spoonable. Usually Spoonable's pretty boring. That's why.
We're just roasting our own podcast. Yeah.
Don't listen to Spoonable Standpoint. It's terrible. Let's keep listening.
Last class that followed what seemed like days of school. It's finally time for lunch. You get online, pay for lunch.
I actually remember searching for that sound of the people talking in the back in the cafeteria. I remember I got it and I was like, yes! That's a little some...
It's really hard finding free sounds.
Yeah, it's really hard finding very specific sounds.
Yeah.
So it was pretty exciting.
And grab a portion tray. filled with fruits, vegetables, and a main course depending on the day of the week. In that moment, you don't think much of it other than the fact that it was just a normal part of your daily routine. However, looking back, you may realize that those times were truly special. The fade out, wow.
That was a great fade out.
Yeah.
Props to whoever did it. I'm talking like there's like 20 people. Either me or Charlene. Props to whoever did that. I remember that. So this episode wasn't really about the food. Mm-hmm. It was about the experience.
Yeah, because, I mean, of course, we have to put it into a bigger context.
Yeah, we make it... We listened to the other ones. The other ones were, like, good, well-produced. Well, not necessarily well-produced, but they were, like, had great topics, and ours was, like, school lunch.
Yeah, the other ones were,
it's cool.
Deep. They were so deep. They were, like, thought-provoking. And we were like, yeah, school lunch, nostalgia.
It's kind of bad.
But...
Let's skip around a little bit. Oh, here we go.
Welcome to Spoonable Standpoint with your host,
Terrible
Leo.
quality.
Terrible mic quality, but we use the exact same song. We might be making a new theme song. Self-produced, written by me. It should be pretty good, but until then, we're going to use some lukewarm hazy. But anyway, let's keep going.
Charlene.
In this episode, we'll be talking about an overlooked aspect of a quintessential staple of the school experience.
Obviously, everyone missed everything. But I missed and still really miss having that break from school. You could hang out with friends and do whatever you wanted rather than work.
Wow, so conversational.
I know. So if you thought the audio cut out, it wasn't that. I just skipped the discussion section, but man, that sounds so scripted.
Very scripted.
Especially considering what our discussions usually sound like.
Yeah.
We're just like, we're umming and uhs, and it sounds terrible.
Like, yeah, I definitely agree.
I definitely agree. Using big words.
Yeah.
Of no pausing. But I thought that was a pretty good foundation. I mean, it was only 5 minutes long.
Yeah.
I think we did most of it in like one take. So that didn't take that long. And I think within like a few days we had our actual full-length one.
Yeah. We had the research down, and it all just came down to doing like the graphic design.
Yeah. Graphic design, we already had our Instagram up, but getting that up and running, and all that stuff. So the other thing we wanted to talk about was our original trailer that's still up on Spotify because for some reason the platform we use has not replaced the trailer, even though we marked it as trailer, but whatever. We tried doing that thing a lot of podcasts do where it's like, POV, you're standing in line, waiting for food.
Yeah.
I think we tried doing that, and then I did it for one of the episodes, and you're like, no. Because I remember you were like, this is really cringy. Can we not do this? And I was like,
it
okay.
was, though.
Let's be
honest.
It was really bad. POV, you're standing in line, waiting for school lunch. It was bad. And so this is our trailer. Maybe we have some new insights if you didn't.
Hey. Welcome to Spoonable
Hey. That was an addition of that you put in, but I'm glad you put that in. Because even though it sounds kind of cringy, it kind of works there. When you do a trailer, you want to sound friendly. You want to sound nice.
Like a real person.
Yeah, you don't want to sound like a robot.
I don't know if we're the best people to say
yeah,
that.
We kind of sound very robotic most of the time. But we wanted to sound as human-like as possible, as anti-Mark Zuckerberg as possible, you know?
Yes, and even if that manifested as Leo being like, hey! I still think that it was a good addition. Plus, we're looking back and laughing at it now with terrible earphone quality as well, so...
Exactly.
We're your hosts, Leo and Charlene.
This is a podcast where we dig into the culture of food and the things that you may not know about it.
We wanted to start this podcast so we could talk about food and learn more about how the food we eat came to be.
So if you ever meet me in person, which some people probably know me who are listening to this, but my voice is generally not super deep, but my podcasting voice. So there was a point where I was doing that podcast voice, and my own dad was like, I listened to this. Who's that other person who's on it? I'm like, Charlene? Like, no, the other guy. And I'm like, there's no other guy. He's like, that was you? So, and listening back, it's like it sounds kind of strange. Welcome. To think like that's a 15 or 16-year-old talking, really?
It's like weird. A lot of people's voices change when they're being recorded and under that certain situation. But it felt like you were doing it on purpose. You're like, welcome to Spoonable Standpoint.
Welcome to Spoonable Standpoint, the podcast where your hosts Lee and Charlene dig into food culture. But these are really fun to do. So, what are we doing for this new season? Brand new season. What do we have in store?
Well, it's all in our single Google Doc.
Our Google Doc. Our Season 2 planning Google Doc. But this season will be more organized in terms of our weekly progress.
Yes, our weekly progress. Because when we were doing it before, over the summer, when we actually had the time to do it, we release episode every 2 weeks, which we still plan to do for season 2, unless, things start going...
Yeah, bad.
Yeah, things are going bad. But the thing we did was we would release the episode and then start working on it like a little bit and then take a week break. And then we would only start like doing the beginning script and outline.
Like the Sunday before.
Yeah, the Sunday before, which gave us about a week for each episode. So each episode was about a week of work, given that we had, minimal schoolwork, and even no schoolwork over the quarantine and over the summer. But now we have a schedule, a much more organized schedule, so that we can actually manage our lives and this podcast, and still release bi-weekly.
And it's going to be lots of fun. We have some pretty great topics to talk about, and something we did at one point over the summer was we made like TikToks. I want to see we made like 2 TikToks and we stopped because it was just like it took so long to make them, because
you actually have to make stuff.
I like making and cooking stuff, but it was just so difficult having to edit it very precise. I don't know. It just took a while, but I think we're gonna try to do more of those. Those got some pretty cray
views, I think. On YouTube, yeah.
Yeah, on YouTube Shorts, I think.
One of them hit over 1K, which
it was crazy.
Impressive. I was pretty proud of that one.
I know. I remember he texted me oh, 1K!
Yeah, and it was the one that I did on the banana bread, which was awesome.
Something about Charlene you might not know if you just listen to the podcast, that she yells a lot when she's happy. On the podcast, very professional, in person. Oh!
Yeah, literally, yeah.
Yeah, so we're gonna do more stuff, might even do a few videos, some longer videos, reacting to some food and stuff.
Yes.
And I think this season it's already going way better than season 1. And we haven't even started.
When we haven't even started. Exactly. I mean, you'll be seeing this on the 4th, February 4th.
Yep. And
our first actual episode will be coming out on the 18th. So we already started working on that one. And we plan to run all the way till August.
Yeah.
Might take a break from late March to early...
For APs.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see about that. But overall, the season is going to be great. We hope you have fun listening. We are going to have lots of fun making it.
So thank you so much for tuning into this week's special episode of Spoonable Standpoint, and make sure to follow us on Spoonable_Standpoint for updates and special content on our Instagram. So if you have any ideas for an episode, make sure to put it on the form in our website, linked in bio, or in the season 2 trailer, which is on Spotify. If you like this episode, don't forget to share it, and we release a new episode every other Friday, and we hope to see you there.
That was good.